California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by Melissa Melendez. She is a member of the California State Assembly, and you know very well about the sacrifice of our men and women in the military in the United States. You served in the Navy. Your husband served a tour of duty in Afghanistan. So the plight of Andrew Tahmooressi really touches you dramatically. Tell us about Andrew and what he is facing today.
So Andrew served a couple of tours over in the Middle East. He's received various awards and recognition. What happened was he came to California from Florida to seek PTSD treatment. We have some of the best treatment in the country. So one of the friends that he knew, a fellow veteran said, come to California, we have a great program.
And I want to talk to you about PTSD because I know you have had family members that have faced PTSD. For those of us that don't have a sense of what post-traumatic stress disorder is, paint a picture if you can.
So PTSD has, a number of ranges. It can be very mild, like my husband had when he came back from Afghanistan. It can be very severe to the point where they're thinking about committing suicide, or they're physically violent, anger issues. So it's a wide range.
A few years ago, I interviewed former supervisor, who was supervisor then, Brad Mitzelfeld from San Bernardino, and he brought a veteran with him who had PTSD. 6'3", great-looking guy, and a shell of his former self.
Right.
You've seen it.
I've seen it a lot.
It is stunning to see how PTSD can just eat at your soul.
It does, and there is a program called Save a Warrior Project where they take these guys who are, and women too, mostly men, who are at that last point where the next step is suicide. They've said that. So this is the last stop for them, but they put them in this program and they do, all sorts of things to help them become themselves again. They've had not one person commit suicide, but it's severe.
And Andrew was on that path. He was on his way to recovery, but he took a wrong turn, literally and metaphorically.
That's correct. He took a wrong turn down at the San Ysidro border. The sign that was there before was a U-turn sign that was placed on the ground, kind of in front of the lane. Right now, they've changed it to where there's a big neon sign and it flashes where you're supposed to go. He's not from California. He got confused. And as we know in California, whoever's gone down to the border, you know that once you get in that lane, there's no turning back. You cannot turn around. So he got to the border, he said, he realized what happened, and he said, I don't want to go to Mexico. I have weapons in my car, because he had all of his possessions he brought with him from Florida. Everything was in his truck. He literally uprooted his life and moved it out to California. He was staying with friends who had children in the home, so he didn't want those weapons in the home. So he said, safer place, put them in my truck. Long story short, he did get stopped. They threw him in jail. They arrested him on weapons charges.
In Mexico? In
Mexico.
That's the rub. I mean, he didn't get back into the United States where there could have been a conversation.
Right.
And that was when?
That was 6 months ago. So
that is, I mean, if he wasn't suffering from PTSD before, I can't imagine. I feel like I'm going to start crying even thinking about it. I can't imagine how he is doing and how his family is doing.
He's not doing well. I've spoken with his mother. He's despondent. He's much different than he was. In the beginning, I think he was more hopeful. Perhaps he thought he would not be there long. That it was a misunderstanding. It would be figured out, and it's not. He has a good attorney right now.
A Mexican attorney?
A Mexican attorney, yes. He's very good. They have made their case that, at the very least, Andrew should be released on humanitarian reasons because this man needs treatment.
What's baffling for me, and of course I don't know the ins and outs of the case, but I mean, why does Mexico want to deal with this situation? I mean, he's an American soldier who's suffering. Let it be America's problem.
I know, I know. And they don't even have the ability to treat PTSD there, so there's no treatment in place, and he's only going to get worse. I don't know why they're making an example of him.
Now, why have you taken up this case? It obviously touches you, but how did it come to you, and why have you made it? I think I follow you on Twitter, and I've seen you tweet about it a lot.
Right. So, of course, this made national headlines, and it's right in my backyard. I live an hour from the border, And I'm a veteran. You know, my husband and I, between the two of us, we have 34 years of service in the Navy. Right, yeah. So we feel for him, and we don't suggest that just because you're a veteran you should be able to break the laws. By no means.
Fair.
But we know from the 911 tape that was released when he called and said, "Please help me. I'm at the border. I have weapons. I don't know what to do. I can't turn around." We know from all those video surveillance that this was a mistake. So for me, I think it's my responsibility as a veteran to stand up for him, because our government is not. I've written letters to President Obama.
Right.
I've written letters to the governor. I've written letters to the president of Mexico and hand-delivered that letter.
And I want to ask you about, I know Governor Brown went to Mexico recently.
Right.
But then the president of Mexico came to California, is that right?
That's correct.
What a great opportunity for you to shine light on this case. What happened?
So the governor did take a delegation to Mexico,
right.
And then invited in turn the president of Mexico to come here, which he did. There was a big lunch that was held for him. Many dignitaries were there and members of the community. And so my feeling was, I've got him right here.
Right.
I mean, I can't pass
Across
it up.
the street.
Right. I can't pass up. I was in the same room with him. So.
Oh, you were there?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I didn't realize.
So I wrote a letter. I had my Republican colleagues and extended the opportunity, of course, to my Democrat colleagues as well to sign on to this letter and ask the president, you know, would you please look into this? We feel that this was a mistake. This can be remedied.
And you gave him the letter?
I gave him the letter.
And?
We got no response.
Really?
No response.
Is it because you're a member of the state legislature, not a congressional delegation?
I don't know.
I honor your service in Sacramento, but
Right.
it just seemed as if, you know, from your bully pulpit, there should be more action.
Well, there should be more action, and what we were hoping was that that would encourage maybe some higher members within the governor to follow us, like the governor. We've had many members of Congress who have also...
Who's your member of Congress? I'm trying to think who...
Ken Calvert.
Well,
yeah, and he's been all over
Right,
it.
I mean, he's a powerful member of Congress.
Congressman Royce, the same. So, again, I don't have an answer.
I know.
I don't know.
I don't
know. But he's close. You know,
They
had a hearing yesterday, I believe, and so we're hopeful that within a couple of weeks he will indeed be released.
Then what? Let's talk about the future. He's coming home. We know that. At some point he'll get home.
Right.
Then what happens?
Well, then he comes back to California, and then I don't know what he'll do. He may say, you know, I want to leave California and get as far away from here as I can. I hope he doesn't. I hope he gets the treatment that he needs.
His family?
In Florida.
Are they active? I mean, I'm sure they're active.
Oh, yes.
I mean, what's happening?
Yes.
How are they doing? I think you've spoken with his mother,
His mother, Jill Tahmoressi.
Right.
She was, you know, she testified before Congress just 2 days ago, I believe. She's been to California to visit him. I have 3 weeks ago, Wednesday, I sent a letter to the consulate saying I would like to visit Sergeant Tahmoressi. I have not received a response. Nothing.
I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm, you know, Pollyanna, but you're an elected official in the largest state in the union.
A neighbor, you know.
Yeah, a neighbor. I mean, and it seems like relations between California and Mexico are improving, I think.
Sure.
I don't know about United States and Mexico, but, you know, California and Mexico, it seems like there's a strong basis. And
you would think.
So let me ask you, as just kind of, you know, not as a elected official, but kind of as a mom, as an American, how are you feeling about this situation that you're able to give voice to Andrew? It's got to be particularly gratifying, I would presume.
It is, because I think the average citizen feels rather helpless. They write a letter to their legislator, whoever that is, whether it's Congress or state, and they don't get an answer, or they get a formatted response, so for me to have the ability to be the voice for everyone who has something to say about this issue feels it's a tremendous burden, and it's a tremendous honor, to be honest with you. It is an absolute blessing.
Yeah, I want to thank you for what you're doing for Andrew Tahmooressi, and really as a symbol for what you're doing for veterans across the nation and around the world. They're very lucky to have your advocacy.
Thank you.
Her name is Melissa Melendez. She is a member of the California State Assembly. My name is Brad Pomerance, and this is California Edition.